Hello and welcome back to another episode of A Build a Day. Today we are building a gatehouse. And I don't often big myself up to sort of use that. Basically, I have like a negative ego. I hate talking about myself. I hate embellishing about myself. I hate exaggerating myself. I hate doing all of that, right? It's kind of detrimental when you need to apply to university and write a personal statement. It's very annoying. But even with that, I do admit that sometimes I'm quite good at doing stuff, right? I'm all right at building. I'm not great at building. I'm not like B-dubs or Scar, where I can make something look like literal art. But I would say I'm all right. I mean, I can make a nice looking building. And I think this is one of the best things that I've ever built. It's also one of the biggest things that I've ever built. And I know I said yesterday that the gingerbread house was the biggest thing we've ever built on the series. This might have just overtaken it. So yeah. This is also the longest build I've ever done. It took me 40 something minutes, which, it doesn't sound that long, but compared to a lot of the other videos where, the builds take anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes, 40 minutes, quite a bit longer. It's quite a bit longer, but it paid off, I would say it was all smooth sailing. Not so much. The gatehouse, obviously, it's got 2 towers, and then the gate in the middle. The gate in the middle is 5 blocks wide. This meant that when we got to the roofs of the towers, they sort of overlapped each other. And then I was like, sort of figuring out how I could make that work. And then I just went, this looks like it's been squashed in. This looks too good to ruin with the roofs. So I broke out the world edit. And I basically dissected the build into its bits, moved stuff around, and then I made it look a lot better. I'm very glad I did it, but it extended the time I built this build a lot. And it's also been sort of brewing, I guess, in my brain for the past few months, because I've been watching B-dubs on the Hermitcraft server. And he's building a lot with diorite and stuff, and I don't mind diorite. I think there are ways to make it look good, right? Obviously, because B-dubs is able to make it look good. But B-dubs is an artist, anyway. But I've always wanted to try and make diorite look good. And one of the ways that you can do that is you can use it in a gradient. So I tried doing that with this build. And it was also somewhat inspired by his latest video, where he creates a custom biome around his base. And that sort of started the idea of using this gradient between andesite and diorite, and sort of having bits of paint like peeling off, and having little bits remaining, and using a gradient to sort of merge them into the rest of the stone and stuff. Sort of involved into this. But then I also needed a roof. Most buildings need a roof. And I didn't want to do just normal crenellations, because crenellations, they're accurate, but they get boring sometimes, and I wanted to make this sort of fantasy sort of feeling, but also while I was building, I had ideas inspired by sort of German and Austrian sort of medieval architectural styles and Renaissance architectural styles. And then that gets into stuff like Schloss Neuschwanstein. I hope I'm saying that correctly. It's otherwise known as the Disney Castle because it looks like it's out of a Disney film. I believe it inspired one of the castles or the actual Disney castle. But it looks like it's out of like some fantasy world because it's, you know, it's got like these exaggerated towers and turrets and stuff, and you know it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, in a beautiful location of Germany as well. And then, you know, I also saw B-Dubs building the Castle. And that has sort of a copper style roof. The roof looks like it's made out of copper. So I was like, all right, we got to make it out of copper. It just looks too good not to. It's also, it adds like, I mean, even though the non-oxidized copper it's not the warmest tone, but when you add it to a build like this where the majority of it is built out of stones, you know, light greys and whites, which are very cold tones, adding something like copper and spruce adds like a little bit of warmth. It's a really nice contrast and it works really well. Yes, it's been sort of grown from watching B-Dubs, who actually has had quite a profound effect on how I build in this game. And I'm slowly getting to the point where I feel like I'm getting a sort of style that I like, and then I sort of want to build. It's mostly medieval, but it's one of the things that I feel fits mostly with sort of the Minecraft vibe, you know. It's like building modern stuff. Like people are really good at building like tanks and things, and it's like I look at that and go, yeah, really cool build, but like where are the guns in Minecraft, right? People are running around with like netherite swords and crossbows. Like if that's not medieval, I don't know what is. You know, a sword and a crossbow. I mean, it's medieval, right? So let's build medieval. Obviously, there's a place for building whatever you want because it's Minecraft. It's a sandbox game. If you like it, yeah, you like it. And you know, if anybody tells you it looks bad, right? Ignore them, because that's not constructive criticism. They're just trying to put you down, right? If they say, it looks good, you know, this is one of the best things you've built so far. And then they give you points to improve it. That's a real one. You know you got a real friend right there. I don't know where I was going with that tangent. Where was I going with that? I don't know. Ignore people who try and put you down, because they are clearly not worth your time. But here we see the development of the big problem that this build had. So I'm starting the sort of top of the second tower. There's this wooden sort of hopper, and then the roof goes on that. So we build the wooden bit, and then I start building the roof. And the roof has an overhang and then a trim. So I think at this point where I realised this doesn't look good, and I am very glad I realised that, because yeah, it doesn't. It looks too cramped at the top, and to be honest, the middle also looks like it's just been squished in there. I think as a castle, this would also work really, really well, you know, a full castle. So the first part of this, the editing, was to take this roof, move it up, and then move the, delete that bit, and then move the two towers the same distance away from the center, and sort of open it up, allow it to breathe a bit more, because it felt too squashed in there. And now we've opened it up, and then obviously we have to connect the gate to the rest of the gatehouse. So I did that by expanding it at the top, and then I removed the arch, made it a bit bigger, as we see there, and then we just added like a little bit of a thin wall, just to go along there, and you know, close off the sort of the entranceway. Add a little bit of texture to it to obviously make it fit in, because we've got this gradient from moss to andesite, and then just having like a plain andesite wall going next to it sort of wouldn't fit in with it. And then we obviously have to expand the roof. So I did that as quickly as possible. And now it looks a lot bigger, but it also looks correct. It looks good now, you know, because it's got more space. It can sort of breathe, relax. I say breathe and relax as if I expect everybody to know what that means, but it's like, if it looks too squished, right, and too cramped in there, it can feel, you know, a little bit, just a little bit off. Something's like, it's not necessarily bad, but it's like there's something, as you look at it, it feels a little bit off, you know? It's not one of those things that's very easy to describe. It's one of those subconscious little things that, you know, us humans are able to pick up on. But just doing that made it open up a bit more, made it look obviously a lot better, give everything a bit more space, give it a bit of breathing room, and then obviously adding the final details, solidifying it into the terrain. One of the easiest things is bushes around the bottom, literally bushes around the bottom, and then I added 2 trees flanking the path. I'm very glad I added those. The trees look pretty good with this. And then the top looked a bit plain, so I added in some windows in the sort of this diorite area. And then, I'm so glad I got that screenshot. It looks really good. But yeah, the video is over. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you tomorrow.